All right, we're pleased to be joined this week by Tony Siracusa from Last Word on College Football. Tony, good to see you this afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. I'm excited that we are fully engaged now in the college football season. It Not that I had a lot of downtime before, but now any free moments I had are long gone, and I'm happy for it.
We'll kick things off by talking about the FWAA awards for this week, Tony. This week's Pop Tarts Crazy Good Team of the Week, South Florida Bulls, coming off their second straight win over a top 25 opponent. I know you voted for them in the
I
Team of the
did.
Week voting this year, as did many of the FWAA voters. So, what stood out to you about USF, and what do you make of their first 2 weeks here?
Well, the first thing that stands out is I'm always happy to be right in my votes. So there's that. I'm happy to be joined by my fellow FWA members and validated as being correct. Look, they both of their wins so far this season have been impressive, right? I mean, they beat Boise State. They beat a ranked Florida team, which there's the two sides of that. It was impressive to beat Florida, but it also now reopens the questions that come every day about Billy Napier in Florida. But man, quarterback Byron Brown just had an incredible game against Florida, right? 283 yards passing and the touchdown, and added the rushing touchdown. And so they look to be really good right now. Two impressive wins. They've got to play Miami this week. And I know this sounds kind of odd. I don't think they have to beat Miami in order to continue to be impressive. Um, I think part of that is you look at what South Florida has done so far, and over those two games, they produced a stretch of 52 unanswered minutes where they didn't give up a touchdown. No one's expecting them to hold Miami down like that. That's just incredibly unlikely. But be competitive, keep it tight, keep it close. Miami's got, more talent, more NIL money, more anything else you can think of. But keep it competitive, because after Miami, they play South Carolina State, they play Charlotte, they've got North Texas and FAU coming up. We could be in mid-October and looking at a 5-1 USF team. And if that only loss is to, a highly ranked Miami team, and we're all going to sit here and talk about how impressive USF looks right now.
Yeah, absolutely. They've certainly got a path to success, especially,
Mhm.
regardless, like you said, of this weekend's result. And when you
Right.
consider that the what top Power Five champion still gets in, then that's kind of what they've
Sure.
probably got their eyes on.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And you start 5-1 or even 6-1, and you're well on your way to making it there, because a lot of the group of five play is so wide open. And you're really not looking at one dominant team right now in that category. So it's wide open to get into the playoff.
So we move on to the other FWAA award that we present in
Mhm.
partnership with you guys, the Cheese at Crunch Time Play of the Week. This week, of course, went to Mississippi State's Brennan Thompson for his 58-yard
Sure.
touchdown catch in the final seconds of their win over Arizona State. I believe it was Mississippi State's first home win over a non-conference Power Four opponent since 1991. So not nothing
Right.
there. What did you make of that catch, and more broadly, what do you make of Mississippi State?
Well, the catch was spectacular. I mean, you don't want to become jaded that we see so many one-handed catches now and guys making the leaping one-handed catch. You don't want to become so jaded that you look at it and go, "Oh yeah, it's another nice leaping one-handed grab." It was a spectacular grab. I mean, this needs to be under consideration for the play of the year, or the catch of the year, or whoever wants to hand out such a thing. For what it means for Mississippi State, I think we don't know yet. They gave up a big lead to Arizona State. They let Arizona State back in the game. So the catch was, and the win was a good moment. Now the question is, can Mississippi State turn that into any kind of momentum from one week to the next? They get Alcorn State next, and I think Alcorn State is 0-2. They get Northern Illinois, who's 1-1. And so 3-0 is possible for Mississippi State. Then they get Tennessee. Then they get Texas A&M. and then they get the SEC schedule. And if we remember last year, Mississippi State started 2-1, got a lot of headlines. They're looking good. They're 2-1. Jeff Lebby was the new guy there, and they're looking good. Then they hit the SEC schedule and lost 5 in a row. So it's a matter of what can Jeff Lebby do differently this year? We'll hear a lot of coach talk about, we're just taking it one game at a time and we're really focusing on the fundamentals and really trying to keep our focus. Let's see how it plays out once they hit the conference schedule.
Yeah, certainly plenty of competition in that conference that will test
Oh
them
yeah.
week in and week
Oh
out
yeah.
for the next 2 months.
Yeah.
So there's more to
Sure.
come from Mississippi State. I know we've got some Thursday ACC football this week with Wake Forest and
Mhm.
North Carolina State playing.
Sure.
You're
Sure.
based in North Carolina. I know you cover Wake Forest.
Mhm.
What's your outlook on Thursday's matchup with North Carolina State? It's first true test for the Deacs this year. NC State
It
coming off a
is.
great win over Virginia. Who gets the W, and what's your perspectives for kind of both these teams looking down the line?
Yeah, it's a strange year. It's a big year of change at Wake Forest. I've been out in Charlotte since the spring of 2022 when my wife and I moved out to Charlotte from Los Angeles and all my 5 years of covering UCLA out there. It's a big change out here under new head coach Jake Dickert. There's a different vibe. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but look, Dave Clawson was very professorial. He was very cerebral about everything. I like talking with him. He liked answering questions, the big picture questions, which I like asking. Dickert is every bit the Midwestern football coach who grew up in the Midwest and coached a lot in the Midwest before going to Washington State. And he's 42, 43 years old. So there's a high energy level there. There's a big vibe there. The biggest thing of note at Wake Forest is the slow mesh offense is gone, never to be seen again. Dickert runs what he likes to call the power spread offense. Every team runs some form of a spread offense, whatever you want to call it. He went with, after a quarterback battle in camp, he went with Robbie Ashford, who is on his 4th team in 6 years, transferred from South Carolina during the offseason. He doesn't have to be great, but he has to be better than he was in the first 2 weeks. They're still not going downfield much. The big key for Wake Forest remains Damon Claiborne, the running back. Played 4 downs in the squeaker over Kennesaw State. I think was it 10-9 in week 1. He played four snaps and then was gone. Had 4 carries and then was gone with bruised ribs. Played last week against Western Carolina and had 193 yards and 3 touchdowns on 10 carries. So there's the difference maker there. But when you look at North Carolina State, they're coming in with the biggest challenge, obviously, Wake Forest has seen so far this year. Wake Forest hasn't really faced a team of this level. The Wake Forest defense, the defensive line with, strangely enough, Kevin Hardy and Gabe Kershke. And if you think about those last names, yes, they are both the sons of former NFL players. So there's some good pedigree there. And they've been getting in the backfield a lot of the opposing team. But North Carolina State is bringing in C.J. Bailey as the quarterback. And he's a lot more mobile. And he runs, a lot of sprint outs. And so this is going to be a real challenge for Wake Forest. Look, Wake Forest needs to have this win to prove that all of these changes are for real. North Carolina State has had a good first 2 weeks, including the win last week against Virginia. So, they don't need it as much. I think it's a 7-point spread in favor of North Carolina State, and I think that sounds probably about right.
And as you look deeper into the ACC, I mean, obviously
Mhm.
Miami is ranked very highly. There's some other teams that Florida State is suddenly catching people's eye again.
Right?
How are you
Yeah.
feeling about the conference in general after 2 weeks of play? And do you think one of these teams has a chance to maybe emerge as a national title contender?
I do. I still think it's a top-heavy conference. I think that even though Clemson hasn't been the Clemson that we were expecting to see, I still think they're going to get there. It's a tremendous front 7 on defense. Excuse me. And I think you're going to still see some upside from Cade Klubnik. I think Miami is for real. I think Florida State, they look good so far. Let's see how it goes for a few more weeks before we ordain them as definitely being back. And then after that, there's a lot of unknown. There's how good can Louisville be? I think they can be decent. Are they a championship contender? Not sure yet. Georgia Tech is going to win games that is going to surprise some people. And then they're going to lose a game or two that they probably shouldn't lose because that's just the Georgia Tech way. But I think you're looking at 3 or 4 teams that will really pull away from the rest of the conference. And I still am sold on Clemson being a national championship contender.
And here at the Pop-Tarts Bowl, we of course pick first outside the CFP, so it sounds like we should have a
Absolutely.
few decent options to select from
Oh,
when it gets to be that
boy,
time
I
in the
think you
season.
absolutely will. I think you absolutely will. I think there's probably 2 teams from the ACC that make the playoff, and man, you're going to have a good choice right after that.
It's talking CFP. It's never too early to speculate about the playoff picture. People have been doing it since the last national championship game.
Sure.
From what you've seen so far, you can only tell so much from 2 weeks. But who's
hmm
separating themselves? Is there a team or teams that look like they're the national champion this year?
I still think it's Ohio State at the top by a pretty decent margin. I liked going into the season, I liked Penn State because they returned both 1,000-yard rushers at running back. They returned Drew Aller, but after a couple of weeks, I'm like, wow, where is the offense? It's not this offense that had so many weapons hasn't shown up yet. And so little unnerved about that. I think LSU looks really good. I didn't think they would beat Clemson, but they did, and they looked impressive in doing it. And certainly Garrett Nussmeier looks like a contender for the Heisman. Oregon, I liked Oregon, and I like Dan Lanning there. I wasn't sure what to think of Dante Moore because he hadn't really seen a lot of playing time. But man, that young quarterback looks really good. So I think there's a good 4, 5, 6 teams, of course, like you said, Miami right up there right now. So I think there's a good 5, 6 teams right now. I still put Ohio State at the top of them, but there's a good bunch of 5 to 6 teams right at the top.
No, I guess I can't let you go without asking about the UCLA Bruins since it's so near and dear to you as well. I'm sure you still keep an eye on
Wow.
what's going on in
Oh,
LA.
sure,
I
sure.
know that they are not. Week one wasn't necessarily what they had in mind. What do you make of their start so far, and what do you see for the Bruins this year in the Big Ten?
It's a painful start for UCLA. It really is. I think from the fan base perspective, they thought things were going to just flip a switch when Nico went there, left Tennessee, and went there as quarterback. And it's got to hurt to now watch UCLA's other quarterback, Joey Aguilar, now at Tennessee, playing as well as he has. And there's just, man, the offensive line looks shaky. Nico's running for his life far too much. You really thought, UCLA brought in a new offensive coordinator, Tino Sunseri from Indiana. And, you hate to hear, well, if you're a fan, if you're spending all that money on season tickets and donations and whatever, you hate to hear it's going to take some time. Give us some time to work with all this. But the offense changed drastically from what they had last year with Eric Bieniemy. So I know the fan base is piling on Deshaun Foster right now, and I get it. They are a long way from being good. It's a long way from where they are right now to good. So it's going to be a long wait for UCLA fans.
Yeah, I know they've got New Mexico, and then they got a week off. Then they'll play Northwestern, so maybe a couple winnable games there, and then they play Penn State. So they got to be
Yeah.
ready for that matchup when they get there.
Yeah, and if you're UCLA, you got no business overlooking New Mexico or Northwestern either. You got no business overlooking what you can do in the bye week. If you're UCLA right now, you're not taking anything or anyone for granted.
Well, Tony, it's been a pleasure catching up with you. We always appreciate it. We appreciate all your work with the Football Writers Association and at Last Word on College Football. So we'll keep reading, we'll keep listening, and we'll catch you down the road.
All right, sounds good. Be well.